Bushy Maape has cracked the nod to take over as Northwest Premier, but the incumbent Job Mokgoro is yet to resign. The ANC Northwest Interim Committee's decision to remove Professor Mokgoro has been met with resistance in some quarters. Some members are threatening to shut down the provincial capital, Mahikeng, if the ANC does not reverse its decision. For more on this story, I'm joined by Northwest Interim Committee Coordinator Hlomani Chauke. Good morning to you, and thank you so much for your time tonight. Did you dump the gun?
Oh, well, no. Thank you very much, and let me greet the viewers of the yes.
Did you jump the gun?
No, we have not jumped the gun as much as we understand ANC internal processes. We have done what we expected to do at the level of having to communicate a decision coming from the national structure, and we have spoken to Comrade Job, and our processes that currently are underway, in which we are now preparing for the exit of Comrade Job, and then and the implementation of making sure that Comrade Bushy then becomes the member of the legislature. We are busy with those internal processes currently. It's a process.
It looks like the mother body, though, believes that you jumped the gun, because the DSG here on the, on the channel, the Deputy Secretary General yesterday telling my colleague Bungalwa last night that they didn't expect this announcement. It was quite premature.
Well, we take note of what the DSG has raised, but obviously we are in contact with the DSG and the Chule House, and I think we are still on course. We are working within what was communicated to us, and we have gone through the structure, and the IPC has in fact received this briefing that we have to communicate that decision, and then we agree that we'll then have a press conference. And I think, we are working very closely with the DSG. Where we'll have, passed each other, I think those matters are resolved. We are taking a guide from the office of the DSG in all this work that we do. Obviously, she's guiding us. Some of us, we are new in doing some of this work that we have to do, but we are taking a guidance. We are learning from that. I think we are fine with the party.
Do you think that, though, there may have been holes in this process, especially if, we hear from you yesterday, and then a few hours later, the Deputy Secretary General tells us then that you may have jumped the gun, and also then that may signal that these things are not going as procedurally as they may be. Are you sure that all the boxes are ticked here, and the Premier, the outgoing Premier, if he will resign, is not being unfairly treated, as some have suggested?
No. I think we have made sure that we communicate, we engage, we talk to the Premier. Not only myself and many other members that are responsible for communication on these matters. And I think the point I'm making is that I think where we are, all steps that had to be followed, we are following them, including the fact of having made sure that the decision is communicated long before even we went to a press conference. We have had time to speak to Comrade Job. On Saturday last week, we've already communicated with the job. So it was part of the plan that we have put in place, that at this moment we can then go to a press conference and then communicate that decision. Having spoken to him already, because the main issue here, it's about, have we informed the Mokgoro about the developments and all of that? Yes, we have done that. And then we then deal with the legislative processes that require the amending of the list, making sure that Bushy Maape, who is not a member of the legislature, is now confirmed to be in the list of the legislature. So those are processes that are underway, and we are finalizing those processes. It was not going to be a once-off that immediately announced it must happen. There are processes that have to unfold. And we did explain yesterday in our press conference that there are still internal processes that we are finalizing. But the main issue of this is that we have communicated with the Comrade Job Mokgoro of the decision of the party.
Which processes are you finalizing, if you're able to share with us?
Well, the main issue of yours was to make sure that the list of the ANC in the legislature is properly amended, so that we accommodate the chief. At the same time, to talk to the chief whip of the ANC that we then have to brief the caucus of the ANC in the legislature. And then the second thing is that working together with the legislature itself at the level of the chief whip of the party, they can then look at the processes in which at what point they can then convene a legislature, including the resignation letter, at what point it's going to come, and what must happen when that letter comes. Because one of the things we'll not afford is to create a vacuum that at the time that Comrade Job resigns, and we still have a problem that the incumbent who happen to be outside the legislature list is not yet even being confirmed or gazetted to be a member of the legislature. So we are dealing with those internal matters. I think they're quite detailed. It's within the law, and we have to make sure that we comply with the law, working very close with those that are responsible of making sure that these things are implemented.
I wonder how much of a challenge it will pose for you if this resignation does not come as soon as you expect it, to then finalize that list that you need to submit to the IEC. Because if you don't have a spot for the premier designate to be on that list of those names that need to go to the legislature and be submitted, then how much of a challenge are you anticipating here?
No, we are fine. Those processes, as we speak now, letters have been signed off, and we don't have a problem. In fact, we don't even believe that we have a challenge, because we have followed the law to the letter, and all what is required is done. We are confident that all what is required is.
All right, it does look like we appear to have an issue there with that line as we try then to get him back to understand about this process. I do understand that you are back. Dr. Chauke, you were still telling us that the process is ongoing.
Yeah, that is correct, but we are on strike. It simply means that when we say we are done, we understand the process is because it's a legislative requirement that must be followed, right? So it's not about now that we have confirmed that Comrade Bushy will come in, it's just come in. There are processes in which have to be followed.
All right, he did say that his connection was not stable as we try then to link back to him, because this is a very important subject. Dr. Chauke, I do see that you are back. Let's then go to this. If you are so in agreement and in sync with Professor Mokgoro and you've kept him abreast with all the developments, take us into your confidence then. Why have we not seen the resignation letter?
In the process of this engagement, we have agreed that at the right time, the letter will come. So once we have finalized, that's why it's important that we have to make sure that we don't leave a vacuum. When Comrade Jobs submit his resignation letter, on the spot there's going to be convening of the speaker will deal with that part, and the chief whip will be available to make sure that Comrade Bushy Maape is confirmed in the list of the legislature. So these are things that we have to make sure that they're in place. So when that letter comes, the letter may have been concluded a long time ago, or it's concluded as we speak now, but we must make sure that we are not going to be embarrassed at the end of the day that we have started the process and we are still lagging with regard to confirmation of Comrade Bushy to be in the legislature. So
are you sure that you won't be embarrassed here, because we still don't have the resignation letter?
No, we are not going to be embarrassed. I think Comrade Job will comply with the party, and then the party in the legislature will do what is expected. Members of the ANC have been briefed of what is expected of them in the legislature. So we don't have a problem to that extent. It's just to deal with all of these formalities that must be finalized and make sure that there's just adherence to the law, to the latter, as we deal with this matter.
I spoke to an analyst here on the show yesterday morning who appears to think, though, that this is more about the balancing of factions, because we know that that is a very deeply divided province, who says this is more than service delivery, but it's about the balancing of factions.
Well, it may be the view of the analyst. The reality is that we are given a responsibility as the IPC to rebuild and to unite the organization. And we are continuing to do that. And this got nothing to do with factionalism. It got to do with making sure that we provide services to our people and implement the manifesto of the African National Congress in the Northwest. So it got nothing to do with factionalism. We have explained this thing yesterday. I mean, analysts have their own right. They can assess in their own way. And they will not even want to differ at the level of, if they criticize us or this is what they believe, it's okay, it's their view. We have a responsibility to unite the African National Congress, and we are on course. With that work, we are on course. With the work of making sure that we're preparing for local government elections, we are on course. In fact, we are the top province in the country when it comes to work of BGMs and community meetings that are taking place to select candidates for local government elections. So there's no issue. For us, there's no issue that is going to stand before the IPC when it had to deliver on its mandate.
You spoke yesterday about, thanking Job Mokgoro as Premier, the work that he's done and all of that. And in the same breath, you talk about unity and you say that it's important for the province to be unified. Did he fail in ensuring that there's unity in the province?
No. Look, when we thank Comrade Mokgoro, it's because we understand the role that he has played to be where we are today. Yes, there may be other challenges that have happened and all of that, but the reality is that the party must appreciate whatever, even if there are failures that have happened in between that, we cannot just throw out Comrade Mokgoro and say we have failures and all of that. That is not how the party does. So there are challenges. You'll know again that at some point, Comrade Mokgoro had to go before the DC of the province on matters that got to do with the party mandate and all of that. Right. So those are internal processes of the organization that we are dealing with. The reality is we are working on that unity. And that unity is not about Comrade Mokgoro. It's about the organization as a whole in the Northwest. It's about structures that were mandated to build them across the province. Right? Where when we came in, there was nothing. And today we can stand and say that we have managed to create structures across, which are just waiting to be launched, all of them. We have interim committees across the province, which, if it was not covered, by now we'll have gone to a provincial conference, by now we'll have done all regional conferences, right? So we are on course on the mandate given to the IPs by the national leadership of the ANC.
Mr. Chauke, apologies. I'm going to allow you to finish that thought in just a moment. Let's pause for just a second, and we'll continue in just a moment. Let's quickly round up our discussion then with the Northwest Interim Committee Coordinator, Hlomani Chauke. Mr. Chauke, as we round up our conversation, yesterday we saw a grouping. I'm sure you saw them because you went out to speak to some of them about some of the concerns that they were raising, to say that if Mokgoro is removed as Premier, they are going to shut down the province. Are you ready to potentially be dealing with a situation that takes you back to the events of 2018?
No, look, yesterday I think you'll have seen that we went out and we engaged with the people who were there. And we understand, even the one that was interviewed, who spoke about that removal of Mokgoro and all of that, that person, we know him. It's not for the first time that he has been doing this. In fact, it's one of those who have been calling for, some of us go back to Kiani and all of that. But the reality is that a mobilized crowd, we saw it yesterday, of 10 people who came, dropped there by people that we know for their...
All right. That line there appears to be unstable where he is, as he had said. I'm not sure if you're able to hear me now, Mr. Chauke, as you had said that, and unfortunately where you are, the area is not as stable. Let's talk about some of the reports that have been in the public domain. We've seen suggestions that Mr. Mokgoro may not be taking instructions from the ANC. And of course, even yesterday and even in recent weeks, we've seen the difficulties around the MEC that has had to now be shown the door and all of those things. Which instructions exactly did the Premier not take from the ruling party, and for him then to find himself in such a position?
Look, those matters are matters that are before the DC, which is ongoing. And really, I will not want to comment on them now. But the fact is that I think yesterday, when you interviewed the DSG, she did make mention of some of the decisions that Mokgoro has taken outside the party mandate, including the appointment of the MEC that was done without engagement with the party, which is a normal practice of the African National Congress when it comes to matters of deployment, right? So I'll not want to elaborate further on some of these things because those issues are before DC currently, and DC will make its own conclusion. We will communicate after the matter has been concluded by the disciplinary committee, which Comrade Mokgoro is appearing.
Are we expecting the resignation this week?
In terms of our processes, we believe that we will be able either to close this matter by the end of the week. And then, as I've said, that this matter is handled between ourselves and the National Office, working very close and guided by the DSG, including the deployees of the NEC led by Comrade Papela, who was very much involved in navigating us, helping us to make sure that we have followed everything according to the law and according to the party mandate as to how things are done. So we are very confident that we'll resolve it. We don't see a problem, and we don't believe that we are going to have a problem when the upper structure has spoken. The decision of removal of Comrade Mokgoro is not only a decision of the province. The National Office leadership of the African National Congress, led by the President, have dealt with this matter. That is why communication came from that level with a clear decision that has been taken that all of us must follow. And I think Comrade Mokgoro understands that. And very well, I think he understands as a seasoned cadre of the movement that this time around, we have to make sure that we comply with the party mandate to the latter.
All right. Thank you so much for your time. That was Northwest Interim Committee Coordinator Hlomani Chauke.